Okay, we'd like to welcome you to our city council meeting today. Thank you for being here. We'd like to excuse Diane Turner, councilwoman, excuse me. She'd kill me. Anyway, and she's watching, by the way. And then we would like to excuse Mayor Iyer, and Tim Tingy is filling in for him. Thank you, Tim. And so everyone else is here. We'll go ahead and get started, and we'll first have the Pledge of Allegiance, and we've asked Daryl Pearson if he would do that for us. Daryl, thank you. Thank you, Dan, for doing that for me.
Could the audience please rise? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you. First on the agenda is approval of minutes, 5.2.1 council meeting, June 6, 2017. Are there any questions regarding this?
I'll move approval of the minutes.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Next, 5.3, special recognition. Murray City Council Employee of the Month, Janie Richardson. Let's see, Tim, you're gonna do that? Come on up, Janie.
Thank you.
Oh, Janie, she's one of the nicest ladies around, and she really wanted this award so bad. She says, "Could I please get it? Could I please get it?" Look at Janie, she does. Trust me, if you know Janie, she's going, "Oh, brother." We love Janie. Janie, you've been here. I'm going to let Tim tell, but it's been
Okay.
a couple decades, haven't you?
Yeah.
You
Quite a while.
don't look
Almost
that.
22 years.
22 years. Well, as a council, we started doing Employee of the Month, and so it's our honor as the council to present to you the Employee of the Month. Here's the certificate. We're going to put your name back on there. It'll be on there forevermore, and then we have a $50 gift certificate for you on the back. And so, as a council, we just want to tell you how much we appreciate you, and Tim will say some more things. But as a council, we love you, Janie.
Thank you, Brett.
Well, I could probably stand here and talk about Janie for maybe months, but we won't do that because there's a lot of other things. Janie is one of the great employees that Murray City has. It's so good to have had her be part of this. I know she'll recognize her family, but she's going to be retiring here shortly in a few weeks, and she wants to spend more time with her family. She has Sarah and Erica, her daughters. I know Joe and Roman. I don't see Roman. He's not. Okay, her grandchildren, Craig, her husband. So she's going to be spending a lot more time with them. But let me just say a few things about Janie. First of all, she is one of the most congenial people that you'll be around. She values relationships, and because of that, she's been very effective as an employee. And those relationships include customers, includes internal staff, it includes a variety of different people. And because of that, she's been so effective over the years. I think one of the greatest examples of her leadership, she's been the GIS administrator, supervised great employees. Steve Coleman, Matt McHuston, Ben Turan are in her division. She's been a great leader, great mentor for each one of them, and such an effective manager. And one of the ways that she's a great leader is it's never about Janie. It's always about other people and her employees and the things that they do. Very seldom, I don't know if I've ever remembered Janie coming in saying, I did this. It's about Ben, it's about Matt, it's about Steve and what they've done and what others have done. So she's a wonderful and an exceptional leader because of those attributes that she has. We're going to miss her. We're grateful for her service. Once again, one of the great assets that Murray City has been Janie Richardson. Congratulations.
Well, thank you very much. I do really appreciate this recognition, and I was going to introduce my family, but Tim did that for me. I love my family very much, and I appreciate them coming to support me. I also appreciate the support of Murray City's administration, from the mayor, the council, the department heads, and my great boss, Tim Tingy. It's truly a pleasure to work for Murray City. Like Tim said, I have great coworkers. They're capable, they're smart, they're hardworking, and they really make me look good. GIS is a very fun profession. There's always something new to learn, and everyone's always happy to see us because the work we do helps them to do their work better. So I truly enjoyed it, but it's always nice to be appreciated, and I do appreciate the recognition. Thank you.
Janie, I'm sorry to hear you're going to retire, but I'm happy for you. It's one of those happy and sad moments. It's amazing how far we come with GIS. I remember going to the first Operation Shakeouts, and it was kind of like, well, we might have something here, we might have something there, and now we know where all of our equipment is for something like that, from engines and ambulances to backhoes. Our sewer and water systems, the power systems, are all mapped now. So if there's a break, they don't have to run back and get a map and look at it. They can pull it up on their iPad. It's just it's a testament to you and your group. So thank you.
Oh, thanks, Janie. I had no idea you were going to retire, but that's a couple weeks away. Weeks away. Well, that's great. You get some of the summer. We appreciate you. And you know what? You and your family, don't stay. You can go. You're welcome. Everyone else stay. But okay. Next we have a presentation of the Cycle Wasatch Bike Friendly City Award to Murray City, and this is being presented by Keith Bateman. Come on up, Mr. Bateman. Look at that good-looking guy coming up.
Thanks, Brett. I appreciate that. The good-looking part we know isn't true. But, for those of you who don't know, back in 2003, Murray did their master plan. And part of that master plan was all kinds of bike paths and pedestrian lanes and all kinds of things like that. On the bike side of things, from 2003 till Mayor Iyer came in, Murray City had done virtually nothing that was in that bike plan. There might have been one or two little teeny pieces. And biking, for those of you who may not be aware, has become a major business, a major, so many people, tens of thousands of people are now bike commuting, biking for sport, biking for just for fun and just to get around town. So in about 4 years ago, when Mayor Iyer was elected, a group of us got involved and we started a little organization called Cycle Murray to advocate for bike lanes, etc. Anyway, I've just been very impressed with what Mayor Iyer did, and also the City Council, Blair Kemp. We actually started a bike task force 4 years ago, and Blair was the first leader of that until Mayor Iyer came in and knew there was going to be a lot of fame and fortune from it, so he took it over. But anyway, Murray's come a long ways and has done a lot. So this Cycle Murray evolved into Cycle Wasatch, where we're looking for areas all over the valley to try to make improvements and develop biking as both for commuting, as a sport, just for fun, for better health, for better air, cleaner air, etc. Anyway, we did an evaluation and decided that every year we were going to give an award for the bike-friendly city along the Wasatch Front, and lo and behold, Murray is getting that first award. So on the plaque here, we've got Mayor Iyer's name and Doug. Doug, if you could come up. But also there were a lot of other people involved from a lot of the city council members, etc. So anyway, we would like to do this presentation for the first annual Bike City Award to Murray City, and Doug and Mayor Iyer especially. Thank you very much.
Yeah, speech.
if I may, I just wanted to, Keith is very humble, and of course, Kate sitting next to him has been equally involved. And I just want them both to know that because of their efforts, because of their prodding, if you will, it helped bring awareness to the need to do more cycling facilities in Murray City, not only recreational but commuting facilities. And since the time that Keith became involved, the city has installed bicycle lanes or bike routes on many of our arterial roads that go through the city, and we have additional plans to do more over the years as funding becomes available. So Keith and Kate, both of you, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Keith and Kate. It really, they were the epitome of how citizens should go forward to push something. And they had such an interest in cycling, and I can't say enough how wonderful you were, the way that you prodded us along, and it was respectful, but you wanted it done, and you got it done. So we appreciate you. One more hand for him. All righty. Thank you, Doug. Next, we have citizen comments, and so these citizens' comments, we have 2 public hearings, so this is not the public hearings. This is just citizen comments. There are forms to be filled out, and you'd come to the podium. If you'd please hand your form to Jan or Patty. Jan, right here, and Patty, where's Patty? Right there. And if you'd state your name and residence, your city, and comments are limited to 3 minutes. And if you've heard, I guess I say here to restate information that's already been provided, if you'd keep that limited. So anyway, we open that for citizen comments, if anybody has any comments. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Suzette Lawson. I live at 5513 South 670 West Murray. I've been a resident for 25 years. I'm here today to talk about the concrete median strip that was installed over a year ago on 700 West, just south of 5300 South. It's just west of the Smith's Food Center. I understand that this was a UDOT engineer design to control traffic that was signed off by the city. We are here today to let you know that this UDOT design is flawed and it's an engineer mistake. I live in the neighborhood known as Hidden Village. UDOT's decision to put the median strip has had a negative impact on the quality of life for our families and the safety of our community. Our personal driveways and immediate connecting intersections are being used as a U-turn and turnabout spot. We as community came together and formed a committee to get a real and accurate count of cars that use our driveways and intersections close to our homes. The number of homes affected is small, but the impact is huge. Not for just the homeowners, but for the commuters as well. 12 homes and 2 intersections show the most effect in the study. The total number of cars that use our driveways counted in a 12-hour period was 191 vehicles. A breakdown of our neighborhood study was given to the council administrator for each of you to review. What was not included in this study was because of lack of resources. Resources was the number of cars that our neighborhood as a thoroughfare to get to the other side of the Smith's shopping center. This number is extremely high as well. Several complaints over the past year have been expressed. Over a year's time has passed and the neighborhood, traffic, and community have not gotten accustomed to the design as expected, and this is because it is flawed. We are here today requesting that the median be torn out. New road signs are not the answer. We already have posted a dead end, no outlet, no U-turn sign, and they are all ignored. For a moment, I'd like you all to imagine that you're looking outside your kitchen window and a car pulls up in your driveway and you look to see who's coming to visit, but instead you're in a eye-locking showdown with a stranger using your driveway as a turnaround all day and all night. For our personal home, we put large cones in place in the center of our driveway, and there was no effect. People drive right over them, back up, and drag the cones down the street where they pop out later on. It's not safe for our kids to play in the front yard anymore, and it's a dead-end street. I don't feel safe in my home anymore because I know strangers are peering into my house and around my house at all hours. I respectfully request that you take this concern with serious consideration and do the right thing and have the medium removed. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm Doreen Jones, 328 Hillside Drive. And I'm here to encourage the City Council to team with the state historical people and evaluate what it would take to restore the Murray First Ward Chapel that's there on Vine Street. And while those folks are evaluating that, take a look at the building to the west, which is one of the few Carnegie libraries left that has not been destroyed. That building was opened on the 15th of December in 1915. Carnegie Foundation gave $10,000 to the community. Murray City contributed $11,129. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to do that? But that building has served, as has the Murray First Ward, has served this community. And I think that those two buildings are constructed well enough that we could find some purposes for them, such as maybe a historical setting for our historical archives that have been collected over the years, art gallery, or offices for people like Mary Ann Kirk. And these are just some of the ideas that are in my mind. But I'm sure there's ways to do that if you'll get people in. Don't get me, I have no idea about construction, but there are people that are knowledgeable about these things, and they're available to us. Our neighborhood was just designated as a historical site, and so I know from those meetings. So that's and I thank all you people for the hours you put in on our behalf. Appreciate you all.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
My name is Deanne Lee. I live right behind Smith's, and my concern is the same as Suzette Lawson's was with this intersection. I've lived in Murray for over 50 years, and when this intersection was first rebuilt, I called the city and said, I've got people coming in my driveway constantly. And they told me, oh, it will settle down, just give it time. But it hasn't. It's just not working. I was recently in my front yard doing work in my yard, and I had 6 cars turning around in my driveway and in the intersection where my driveway goes into, and that time period was 20 seconds. 6 cars in 20 seconds turning around. Lots of people come off the 53rd South intersection and come west on 53rd South, and they see the Smith sign and they think, oh, I'll stop and buy a gallon of milk or something. And unless they know to turn left into the by the church and the gas station there and go half a block and turn into an unmarked small thing through someone else's parking lot and into Smith's parking lot, the only other choice they have to get to Smith's is to go to the intersection of 53rd and 7th West, turn left at the light, and they're expecting to be able to get into Smith's that way. They can't. That intersection has been blocked off. They are forced into our neighborhood to either make a U-turn or use our driveways, and in order to get to Smith's. There's just no other way for them to get there. Even if they're going south on 7th West and they don't turn left to get to Smith's, it creates the same problem. They're in our neighborhood to turn around to get to Smith's. Rarely do I come out of my house that I don't see someone turning around. Tonight, when I came home, in a one-block area, I was halfway up the block, and by the time I got to my house, 2 cars had turned around in front of me. It's just constant. They come through our neighborhood to avoid that 53rd and 7th West in the early morning traffic and the night traffic because they don't want to go through that intersection, so they're coming into our neighborhood to circumvent that intersection. It's just not working well. Thanks for your consideration.
Thank you.
My name is Rex Morey. I live at 684 West, 5465 South in Murray. I'm part of the Hidden Village neighborhood. I too am here to voice concerns about this island that has created so much traffic in our neighborhood. Over the last few years, I've paid nearly $2,000 to get new concrete done in my driveway, only to have some generous soul leave a foot-wide puddle of oil in the middle of it while we were out of town, which has now stained and ruined my brand new driveway. It's not the only thing that's causing problems in our neighborhood with this traffic problem. We have children that play in that area, and cars are wheeling into these driveways hoping to make a fast turnaround. They're not paying attention to the children that are moving through there. Kids are walking to school through there. There are children that live in the neighborhood and play in those yards and driveways, and we expect them to be safe, but these cars are wheeling in there and turning around at sometimes at very rapid speeds. I also have with me a letter from my neighbor who couldn't be here tonight that I'd like to submit as part of this as well.
Where
Thank you.
can? Stand there? Oh, yeah. Thank you, Rex. Appreciate that.
Hello, I am Michael Sheranian. I am not a resident currently of Murray. I live in Salt Lake City at 1148 Southwest Temple. I'm here in support of the preservation and possible repurposing of the Murray First Ward and the surrounding buildings. I represent 4 generations of people that went to that Murray First Ward. I was during high school, I lived in Murray, and we attended that ward. My great-grandfather came to the United States in 1902 from Western Armenia and settled his family in Murray, and were very prominent figures in the community and also members of that ward. It holds a very dear place in my heart. And I have another kind of maybe interesting perspective on what happens to a community when historic landmarks and buildings are torn down instead of efforts made to preserve. The other side of my family, the Judd side, comes from Wanship, Colville area, and in Colville there was at one time an absolutely beautiful pioneer structure called the Colville Tabernacle, and it was torn down, and I have to say that that community has never been the same. It tore the community apart, and it still remains a big bone of controversy right now. I don't know, looking back on times when buildings have preserved, that people have been against, too many people have been against it, but a lot of people seem to be against, divided, very divided, when wonderful historical structures such as the Murray First Ward and the library are not taken seriously for their place that they have assumed in the community. A community's identity is based on history, and if that history is not taken seriously, then an identity and a sense of unity is very hard, in my view, to perpetuate. And I'm a very strong advocate for whatever it takes to make this work and to keep those buildings part of the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you so much for letting us make some comments here, and we really appreciate everything you do for us in the city. We just want to make sure that all our comments become a matter of record, so everyone that's on Preserve Murray, so that we can make that a matter of record. We have a petition.
Kathleen, your name and address?
Oh, sorry. Kathleen Stanford. I'm at 487 East Vine Street, Murray.
Thank you.
So we have a petition that we would like to share with you tonight. I'm going to read it. A petition for Murray residents. We urge the Murray City Council to restore the most historically significant building still surviving in Murray, the LDS Church, the former LDS Church on Vine Street, built in 1907. Murray City should explore all options for restoring the building, allowing for ongoing public input, obtain independent evaluations of these options by qualified preservation professionals, apply for funding through preservation grants, tax credits, and private donors, and consider housing city services in the restored building.
Thank you.
So at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting on May 4th, we were told that this decision would take several months to get to a developer's agreement. That from the Planning Commission granting of the certificate of appropriateness, it would take several months to get to a developer's agreement. So that was a month and a half ago. So we would really prefer to have a continuance of this issue so that we could have more time to bring some of our expert witnesses, some of our people that could not attend tonight, to have a say on this matter. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen.
My name is Susan Halliday Carroll. My family has lived in Murray since very early in the 20th century. Solomon and Martha Walker, and
Susan, are you a resident?
I am a current resident, 533 Benbow Street.
Thank you,
yes.
Susan. Thank you.
I live in my grandmother's house, Jenny Halliday, and she was a beloved teacher here in Murray. And my parents, my father was born on Benbow Street, and my mother was part of her father worked for the LDS Dairy and the West Side, and my family was born there, and this was our chapel for my grandparents and my parents and me, and this was a beautiful building. I went to church here, and at one point they repainted the decorative plasterwork to bring it out. It had been just painted over, and someone spent the time and money to actually repaint the decorative work. It was a gorgeous building with the stained glass in front and the stained glass in all of the classroom doors, and a beautiful pipe organ, which wonderfully were reused in the Vine Street Chapel there by the park entrance. But this was the first LDS Stake Center in this Mid-Valley area. It was a landmark, and it was built with love. And it was built in 1907, so it even predates Murray City. I have a comment from Dr. David Sundwall, one of our prestigious Murray people. He now teaches at the med school, and he also volunteers 2 days a week at the Community Health Center. And a couple of years ago, he was the Utah Physician of the Year. So he's a very prestigious person, and he loves Murray and was a Murray resident his whole entire life. He says, I want to read his statement. He called our group and said, "I'm very sorry I have an important commitment and can't make it to your meeting. Please tell the council that our whole family is behind you, and losing that church building would be a travesty." Both of the buildings, both the chapel, are wonderful historical things, and Murray is always progressing. We've always done our best to hold on to new ideas, but we also love the traditional things, and we need those. Murray First Ward was the first LDS congregation that stopped using the one communal sacrament cup and started using the individual ones. The very first one, and they paid $1,500 to buy them because one of the members of the ward was a scientist, and he tested the water left in the cup after it had been passed and found 5 deadly diseases in it. And so they were the very first. This is the type of people Murray are, but they don't destroy their history.
Thank you, Susan.
Hi, my name is Janice Strobel, and I live at 4912 Wasatch Street. I've lived there for 24 years now, and I go by the Vine Street development that's being considered as agenda item number 10.5 today multiple times a day. And it is sad to see the condition that the building is currently in, but I would like to focus my comments on the preservation of the original footprint of the Murray First Ward building, which does not include this wing here or the recreation hall wing. This building will provide a legacy that honors our amazing past, the sacrifices that our forefathers made for what we are able to enjoy today. By honoring our past through the preservation of this building, we are magnifying our future. We are looking ahead by honoring our past. This future will be far brighter than if we destroy our past by demolishing this building. Historical buildings are essential elements in urban environments. When we get rid of such a building, it is irreplaceable, it is gone. And as a church, it has special heightened meaning for communities, as it was used as a church at the time it was begun. I'm not saying that it not a purpose for the church now, but churches have been the heart and soul of the community, and it can continue to be the heart and soul of our community. Our actions now will be a part of Murray's history. And in a future Murray history book that may look similar to this, let's not have a picture, only a picture of this building that states this was one of Murray's greatest historical and this was one of Murray's greatest historical and architectural and historical losses. Rather, let it be said, this is one of Murray's greatest architectural historical assets. This building, built in 1907, was a source of pride to the community, and today, 110 years later, we can determine that to restore it has a lasting source of pride to our community. We can make a difference in creating this legacy for our community. Thank you. So I ask your valued council members, who we so appreciate all your service that you give to our community, to vote no on this proposed development agreement as it currently stands, and give us space of time to explore the preservation of this valuable building and its assets. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Janice. Hi, Lori.
Hi. My name is Lori Hagland, and I live at 1575 East Vine Street. The easternmost area of Murray City needs a park Today I represent hundreds of Murray City residents who ask you to follow the advice from the Murray City General Plan to ensure that the provision and maintenance of parks and open space facilities are a priority as Murray grows and changes in the future. We ask that you approach the Leonard DeSera family with a fair market proposal to purchase their land and create the Leonard and Mary DeSera Memorial Park. The Fontainebleau to Vine Street section of the proposed Murray Canal Trail is a little-known natural green space along the canal. The area is treasured by residents who walk along the canal and enjoy wildlife, majestic mountain views, and a sense of serenity not found in a Murray City neighborhood. Murray City is spending close to $1 million to develop the trail, with Wheeler Farm as a destination location at the southwest end, leaving the Vine Street to Fontainebleau end of the trail without a destination. The 725-acre easternmost area of Murray is bounded by Van Winkle, 13th East, and I-215 was annexed in 2001 and 2002 from unincorporated Salt Lake County and is the largest and one of only a couple areas in the city not served by a park. Murray City takes great pride in the availability of parks and in providing a high quality of life for those who live in the city. The recent deaths of longtime Murray residents Leonard and Mary DeSera and the pending availability of their acreage at 16-something East Vine Street have prompted neighbors to petition the city for a park in that location. For decades, Leonard DeSera farmed the land by himself, providing organic heirloom produce to local grocery stores and for his neighbors. In addition, his beautifully planted and tended farm provided a beauty and green space in the area that was treasured by the neighbors, almost as much as by the DeSera family. Eric Stanley, a resident of the neighborhood, is also a talented landscape architect working for GSBS Architects, one of the state's most noteworthy firms. Eric and GSBS have offered concept design and concept budgeting services at no charge to the city. Beautiful concept drawings prepared by Eric and GSBS will be helpful to you as you approach the DeSera family. As residents and neighbors, we petition you to purchase Leonard and Mary's property from their children, establishing the Leonard and Mary DeSera Memorial Park. A park in our East Murray neighborhood would also provide value to the city and its residents as an east side destination for the trail. Leonard and Mary's immigrant story is an incredible one, and the kindness, love, and work ethic they displayed, they're my neighbors, is an example to all who knew them. A park on their property would honor their legacy and would provide a convenient access for Murray's tax base and residents. Tonight we deliver the first 250 signatures. Diane Turner and Brett Hales, you represent us. We will be contacting you to schedule a meeting and deliver more signatures.
Thank you,
Thank
Lori.
you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Roger Hagland. I live at 1575 Vine Street. Lori and I have become active in Murray politics with the Planning Commission as well as the Council. And we've appeared before to petition your help in stopping projects which the Council thought would enhance the city. And tonight we're here to ask you to pursue a project that we believe would enhance the city, rather than asking you to stop something for our individual needs. A destination at the east end of the trail in the park department would make it, as Lori said, give us a destination on either end of the park, making the trail more meaningful. The biggest problem in a city like Murray, which is largely built out already, is they're not making any more land. The chance to buy raw land is rare, and particularly rare up in our neighborhood. The city, I know, from what you're being asked tonight, there are many demands on city funds. But there's no way the city could afford to knock over part of a neighborhood to create a park where we live. And I think we ended up finding a public and private means to fund the trail. We talked with Jim Palmer, who used to sit on the Holiday City Council, and he said this is a chance to petition for ZAP funding for zoo, arts, and parks. And perhaps we could find a public and private way to finance this park to make an open space in our end of Murray and make more meaning to the trail that we asked you not to build.
Oh, good. I love you,
But
Roger.
such a partnership, I think, would enhance the idea of the trail. Since the trail is going through, let's make it something that is meaningful for the citizens of Murray. And I do appreciate coming as much as I've come to see how much time you spend, because I'm only here when I've come to complain or to ask. So thank you for your service.
Thanks, Roger.
Hi, my name is Clark Barnett. I live in Salt Lake City. And I just have a couple of technical notes regarding the Vine Street Church. So when we asked the Community Services Department, we were told a couple things. Number one, there was no documentation for any structural analysis done on the building. Number two, there was no documentation for any cost of restoring the building. And number three, the only way that the city has to protect the building is to buy it. Thanks, Council.
Thank you, Clark.
Hi, my name's Laura Anthony. I live in Provo. And I'm speaking with regards to the Vine Street Church. In the Planning Commission meeting of May 4th of this year, the public was informed there can be no further public input on this matter. This was further reiterated when in meetings with Murray City staff we were told, when the Planning Commission has spoken, this is a done deal. There is nothing you can do. However, this was not true. No one informed the public of the appeal option. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura.
My name is Sterling Hurd. I currently live in Orem, but my family has a long history with Murray. They've lived there for over a century. The city has been slow to recognize how significant the Vine Street Church is for Murrayites. It was treated as an issue that would only affect the residents of the immediate neighborhood, and the intended plans were shown only to just a small group of residents. While city regulations do not require that input be taken from citizens throughout the city on such a development, the tremendous significance of the Vine Street Church and simple principles of good governance should dictate a citywide discussion about the property. Just as the historic downtown is an asset shared by the entire city, the Vine Street Church is a historic landmark in which all Murrayites hold a stake. The willingness of the city to allow demolition of this shared heritage is an affront to the people of Murray.
Thanks, Sterling.
Good evening. My name is Bobby Henry, and I live on 5000 South Glen Street here in Murray. Been a very active in my short-term 40 years of living in Murray. Had the opportunity to serve on the Historic Preservation Board, and we had spent a lot of time and energy putting together maybe 5 or 6 master plans ago. I'm not really sure how many that we go through. One of the things besides the church and the library that I want to discuss is moving forward. Murray belongs to the residents. It doesn't belong to developers who come in with an idea. It belongs to the residents. This is our city. We are raising our children. My children own homes here in Murray. And bit by bit, our history, what people in the past have gone to build this community, is disappearing through fires or Costco's. Murray was so distinctive. When you would drive into Murray, you know. And the downtown area is still distinctive, and there's still time. Just going forward, I would ask a bit of a litmus test, if you would, on these decisions. Please let the Murrayites take your time. Let them come forward. Let all of us have time to get the people that... So many times I'll say, oh, did you know this is happening? And they're like, how come I didn't know about it? And I'm like, it's your responsibility to know what's going on in Murray. but we don't always have the time to get the people together to voice our opinions. And I think the residents' opinions should be the only ones that count. I don't understand why a developer's idea would be better than ours. So I asked this. I know I have 3 minutes and I'm over, but I will make this short. Who benefits the most? Private, business, or residents when you move forward on a development proposed by a developer? Who wins? Who benefits, the business or the residents? Next, will it better the daily lives of the residents? Or will it create even more traffic that we can't deal with? Do we want to be Costco and the hospital? Is that our new identity, that we just look like every municipality in the valley? Will it make Murray a better place to live now and for future residents? You cannot see every unintended consequences from the actions. You cannot. Please move slowly, with thought, answering these questions. Who benefits the most, the residents or the developers? Are you going to bring in more traffic? Does it help or hurt our economy? Do we bring in corporate businesses? Okay, I got 1 minute. Corporate, or does it help the mom and pops that really make Murray? Are we bringing in competition? Do we need more assisted living? Are there plenty here already? Please, when you move forward, who does this benefit? It should only benefit the Murray residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Bobby.
My name is Dwight Ramash. I live at 755 Morning Dew Drive, and I'm here to discuss potentially a flaw in the Planning Commission's reasoning regarding the Vine Street Senior Living development. On page 3 of the May 4th, 2017 Commission meeting, it states, the site plan proposed by the applicant shows the Carnegie Library will remain, and the senior living facility will wrap around the corner of Vine Street and Jones Court and onto Arlington Avenue. The other buildings in the area will be demolished as part of the project going forward. I guess that's an assumption that the other buildings cannot be repurposed. I reference the 4th page of the same Planning Commission meeting. The city will only allow the exemption for the demolition of buildings that are historically significant in the zone if the criteria can be met. First, the applicants have to demonstrate that the condition of the buildings cannot support relocation or be repurposed in any meaningful way for the project at hand. Going back to page 3, it states the main floor houses some of the common use areas such as a restaurant, dining room, bistro, salon, physical therapy, and lobby. The lobby will feature large murals and historical photographs that would recall the past buildings that will be demolished. The chapel on the main floor will house a recreation in the stained glass window that was recreation, of the stained glass window that was previously in the front of the Murray First Ward. It seems to me that we're destroying a chapel to build a chapel. And when you superimpose the drawings that were supplied, it appears as though the demolition of the Murray Chapel makes way for, I guess, roundabout and some parking. So my question is, based on the logic of the Planning Commission, it seems to me as though there can be repurposing because the purposes stated in the request are purposes that are currently existing. And as it relates to cost, I think we all remember December 17th, 2010. That helped all citizens understand that historic buildings can be restored. It was the night that the Provo Tabernacle was destroyed. And according to reports, the only thing that was left of that building was not structural, it was a brick veneer. Okay, I would submit to you that with a little bit of careful consideration, maybe not all of the Vine Street Chapel could be preserved, but I think with some creative architecture and some creative will from the council, significant architectural portions of the Vine Street Chapel can be preserved and incorporated in the new design, per the guideline of the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, Dwight.
My name is Delin Barney. I live at 4902 South Box Elder Street, Murray, Utah, a home that was built by my family and I now own. While growing up, I attended the church at Murray First Ward. It is a grand old building of the Gothic Revival style. Refer to pictures 1 and 2. I feel we should save our history. Quoting from historical records, the Murray First Ward Meeting House, which was originally commenced in 1907 at a cost of $25,000, was later remodeled and enlarged in 1928 and 29 at an additional expense of $75,000, and the building became one of the finest and most convenient houses of worship in the Cottonwood Stake of Zion. The quote on number 3. A lot of time has gone into plans for an assisted living center. Regardlessly, as technically correct as they are and how well it follows the letter of the law, it does not fit the fabric of the community, nor does it save our history that has existed for over 100 years. The center is 4 stories high, much higher than the surrounding apartment and houses. See the composite picture of the architectural drawing and the photo. Number 4 is a composite, and number 5 is the architectural drawing provided by the architectural firm. And the composite one shows how tall it is compared to the tower in the background. Although there are a number of assisted living centers in the valley, a quick internet search will attest to with some good results. Number 6 should show a whole bunch of assisted living centers. There are a few within Murray City boundaries. However, one in the center of downtown is not a good fit, especially if its intent is to draw people. As much needed as such centers are, how many young people would want to have lunch or dinner at a senior center? We should also protect our seniors. I feel we should save our history and repurpose the Vine Street Church as part of a community performing arts complex to also include the Desert Star Day Center and Murray Theater. Our history should be here for later generations to enjoy. There is an article in the Salt Lake Tribune published on May 7th, 2017 that put it very well. Number 7. Quoting part, allowing things to grow and change is necessary. However, we can choose to do this while keeping things we are. However, we can choose to do this while still keeping the things of our past. The Murray First Ward is a beautiful building that is a beautiful part of Murray's legacy, and tearing it down need not be a path we should choose. A close quote. I would encourage all of you to read the entire article. Again, save our history. I quote again, tearing it down need not be the path we choose. Thank you very much for your time and energy.
Thanks, Glenn.
Hi, my name's Alan Barnett. I currently live in Salt Lake. I'm trained as a historic preservationist, and I've worked for a number of cities throughout the state evaluating their historic buildings. At one point, I sat on the board, the Murray History Advisory Board here, and the Design Review Committee here in Murray. I think I just gave you. The city, it seems to me the city doesn't have anybody with the real expertise to evaluate historic buildings on its staff. And that, I think, has led to some real problems in this particular case. What the city does have is a history advisory board. And the history advisory board is the body that has some expertise to give advice on issues of history in the city. Unfortunately, the city has ignored the advice of its own history advisory board. In a memo dated 30th of January 2017 and addressed to the mayor, to the city council, and the planning commission, the advisory board pointed out to that the city, quote, may grant an exception to allow demolition, but is not required to do so. Furthermore, the board emphasized the need for balancing the legal requirements to preserve historic buildings and the allowance for exceptions in certain cases. The city has shown no effort to find a balance between the two demands of the ordinance. The memo also called for an evaluation of the condition of the building from an independent expert. Again, the city ignored the advice of its own advisory board. Well-considered suggestions that could have made for a better process and a better end result for the people of Murray were passed over. I would urge you to reject the development agreement because it's based on a flawed process and because it is not in the best interest of the people of Murray. Alan Roberts, who is a preservation architect who's done who's one of the most prominent preservation architects in the state, has looked at the property, and some of you may have had a chance to talk to him, and he's talked about the viability of the building and that it can be restored. There's nothing inherently wrong with the building, and he and I both would agree from the preservation standpoint that it is the most historically significant building in Murray, and to lose it would be to lose something that can never be replaced. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan.
Hi, I'm Shannon Smith. I've never been to a council meeting before. Hi, everybody.
Hi.
I'm concerned about the median that got put in the 7th West at 5465. Okay, I grew up in this area. I'm in the family home that I grew up in. So all of the neighbors are older people that I grew up with, went to church with, went to school with their kids. These people are still in their homes. They're out moving about. And with this median that came in, we have people speeding up and down 5465. It's like a freeway. There are people that walk their pets, and when you are at the top of the hill, if the people are at the bottom, they can't see you until they're on you. This median has also caused a problem with people turning down our streets, and by the time they get to my house, I'm at the light pole. By the time they get to my house, they're almost 40 miles an hour. And it's a dead end. And you just hear the tires screeching and everything else. There are little kids down at the end of the street that are going to be playing outside because it's summer. There are elderly people taking their dogs for a walk. It's not a good fit. They're turning around in people's driveways, and you know, some of them have the double dip because they had RVs and boats, so they needed that. Now people think it's just a free spot to turn around, and they do it all hours of the day and night. The radios blaring, the screeching of the tires, you know, it's uncomfortable. The element of some of the people that come down there and do that, it's kind of scary. You know, we have a neighborhood watch program, and we started it about 4 or 5 years ago. 5465 was an issue then for speeding. It's an issue again still. And we need to do something to get this median taken care of so that people will not be able to turn up and down in everybody's driveways. They have tried to turn around in mine with our car not there. This individual was going so fast, by the time he stopped, he tapped my house and broke a brick. He was going that fast going in, So it's a issue, it's a safety issue for the elderly people and the little kids. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you so much for listening to all our concerns. We know they're long. I just need to read a little thing that explains some.
Your name and.
Oh, my name is Brent Barnett, and I live in Provo and also own property on Vine Street. Let me just say, concerning the Vine Street property, we have followed the process and been quite concerned about it, and I just wanted to mention a couple of things about it. We feel that essentially the city has not accurately followed the process that is outlined in the Murray ordinance, and that this failure essentially undermines the legality of that process. Let me say the Murray Code states, and I will quote here, "The following properties are deemed historically significant and this is emphasized with my own italics, will be preserved. 186, 190, and 192 East Vine Street, as well as 5000, 5002, 5004, 5006 South Jones Court." End of quote. Now, aside from this protection, the code also provides an imperative to preserve, but it also allows for exceptions. And I want to just mention a couple of things about exceptions. An exception is, I would say by definition, a deviation from the norm. This should thus, in any legal standard, presumably be granted only under what we would call exceptional circumstances. There is absolutely no evidence available to the public to indicate that any such exceptional circumstances exist in this particular case. If this process were to be applied in the same way to every development proposal in the future, not a single one of the buildings mandated for preservation in our ordinance would survive. This cannot possibly be construed as meeting the letter or the spirit of the mandate in the ordinance. Let us say then, even if the circumstances of this case, meaning the Vine Street property, were exceptional, the code also specifies that an exception may be granted only if certain criteria are met. Among these criteria is the requirement, and here I quote again, that the applicant has demonstrated, again I emphasize that word, to the Planning Commission that incorporation of the significant historic building in the proposed development is impractical based on the condition of the existing building, structural incompatibility, or other similar constraints, end of quote. A GRAMA request to this city has revealed that the applicant has provided no such demonstration in this case. And in conclusion, these are just some of the legal discrepancies that have been evident in the process, but we feel they are sufficient to compromise the legality of the process and hence the validity of this certificate of appropriateness issued by the Planning Commission. Thank you again for listening to our concerns.
Thank you, Brent.
Hello, my name is Scott Bainbridge. I live on 4852 South Wasatch Street. We just moved into Murray about 3 years ago. I brought my family of 4 children and chose a historic home. Contrary to, I guess, society's norms, we thought downsizing would be the answer, and we've loved it. I think the challenge comes when we propose master plans and we maybe forget what made Murray great was the families. And as we continue to develop, I agree with most of the comments that have been made that we need to take our time. I'm in the construction industry and I fully understand that sometimes the costs of preserving a building or saving something may exceed what that money could be used for for other things that would make the city better. But I also believe that we should really take the time to reflect on it. There's many places that the assisted living center could be built. Does it really need to be on a site of one of the, I think, one of the most beautiful historic buildings there are in the valley? Is that the ideal choice? Or are we just rushing into it because it's available and somebody has the money to do it? An assisted living area is nice. I have an aging mother that lives down the street from me, and it would be nice to have a good facility for her when she reaches that age. But I also want to make sure that my kids feel like Murray is their city and not a city of assisted living and high-rise businesses that don't support their needs. I see more and more in our neighborhood houses being rented out and not even monitored by landlords that don't care and probably don't even live here. I see more and more businesses going in that don't support families. If we really cared about what Murray was and what Murray can be, we would find some encouragement for families like mine to move in and to ignore the 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 square foot homes that are so enticing on the west side and remind them why this city is so good for families. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Hi, thank you so much for hearing all our comments. I'm really I can just hold this.
There we go. We're over. No, I'm just kidding. Thank you. Isaac. Oh, look.
Wow, I really started with a bang there. I just won't touch it. So my name is Katie Hurd. I live in Orem, but I have lots of family here that we have just good roots here, and we love Murray. My great-grandmother, Merle Hobbs Casper, was born in 1913 in a home just across the street from the Vine Street Church, and she lived on Vine Street her entire life. She passed away at age 96, 7, somewhere around there. Her entire life was on Vine Street, and she was a true Murrayite. So she moved twice. She was born there, and then she moved twice to 2 homes further up the road. She graduated from Arlington School, the old one. She graduated from Murray High, where she was in the booster club and on the girls' basketball team, which is a little ironic because I am a full head taller than she was. But she was a fantastic basketball star. She worked at Murray Power. She shopped at the Murray Merc and at the Superette store on Glen Street. She was a Murrayite to the core. Murrayites love Murray because it is the greatest town in the entire state. But it got this way because of the people who built it. We have all been blessed. We all experience blessings from their work and their effort. And we've been blessed by these founders of our city who are now all gone. But they left the remnants of their work, and we can save them. If there is any building that Merle Casper, my great-grandmother, would have saved, it would be the Vine Street Church. Anything I can do toward preserving this church is my tribute to her and to all the people who built this city. I think it is a tribute that a lot of Murrayites would be glad to make. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Katie. Okay. I'll just real quick read. Jan gave me, we have an email from Josh Yost in favor of protecting the historical building in Murray, 6 pages in length. So, is that what you said? 6. What did I say? 60? 6 pages in length. Anyway, and so that'll be incorporated into the minutes of this meeting. Are there other comments? If they're not, we'll close that part of the meeting. Thank you so much.
Mr. Chair, can I make a comment? Going back to the comments that were made earlier by Suzette Lawson on the island issue on 7th West. I just want to, I know this isn't an agenda item and we're not going to discuss here, but I just wanted to make a comment that I did meet with her earlier this week and looked at the issue there, and I did stand in front of Mr. Morey's driveway and looked at all the rubber that was marks that were on there from their turnaround, and I just want these residents to know that I believe there is an issue, and I've talked with Doug Hill about looking at something that we can do to improve it. So just wanted you to know that.
Thank you, Blair. Thank you. Okay, we will, and again, we appreciate all your comments and your time. That's what we're here for. Someone said that earlier, and that is true. Next, consent agenda, we have none. We will now go to our first public hearing. Consider an ordinance adopting the transfer of monies from enterprise funds to the other cities. Denise? Who's doing that? Denise, are you doing that? Or Frank? Yes. Oh, I'm supposed to read the notes, sorry. This public hearing is a continued from our last meeting, June 6th, when presentations were made and public comments were taken. The public comment period was closed during that meeting. No further presentations will be made. Sorry, it's the next one. Yeah. Okay, so now is the time for the council consideration, because we took comments last time. And we had a wonderful presentation, Denise. Thank you. Don't you love it when Jan says, "Would you read my notes, please?" I usually can tell when I look over at Frank and he gives me the eye. Look at him. Okay, so do we have a motion or any questions on that?
Well, if we're doing a motion, then I'll make a motion that we adopt the ordinance transfer for the transfer of monies from enterprise funds to other city funds.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Jennifer?
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. Okay, public hearing number 2 is consider an ordinance adopting the final 2017-2018 fiscal year budgets for Murray City, including the library fund budget. And the public hearing was also continued from, this public hearing was also continued from June 6th, when presentation was made by Denise and public comments were taken. The public comment period was closed during that meeting. Now, Finance Director Denise will has one more further comment regarding a certain part of the budget. Is that correct, Denise?
That's right. Good job. And I'm not touching that.
No kidding.
Oh, come on.
I know.
Oh, look, you did.
No, not yet. It's the next one. I get 3 items tonight. This ordinance, we did receive our certified tax rate, and we do have an increase of certified property tax revenue for the general fund in the amount of $92,477 in excess of what was presented in the budget. We also have an excess of the library fund of $25,638 in excess of what was presented in the budget that's been on the website and posted publicly. So we would like to amend the budget and add those to the revenues, and we will increase reserves with those funds at this time.
Alrighty. Any questions for Denise? She wants to give us money.
That's all.
Love it, Denise.
Thanks.
She's new and already doing the right thing. Alrighty. We'll take consideration from the council.
I don't have a question for Denise, but I have a comment on the intent document. The very, very last item in there is regarding the funding for retaining and directing city lobbyists. I don't think that wording was updated this year, because last year we actually transferred that money to the mayor's office. I think probably just some tweaking in the wording to indicate that, I don't even know if it needs to be in there this year or not, but at least indicate that that was done last year, not this year. Does that make sense, Jan? Okay, thank you.
Okay, if you guys, if you want to do that, include that in your motion.
Will do.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Blair.
Okay, that being said, I'd vote we adopt the ordinance adopting the final 2017-2018 fiscal year budgets for Murray City, including the library fund budget, and also striking that last section of the intent document on lobbyists.
All right, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Jennifer?
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you very much. Thank you, Denise. I know you're staying. You have another one, huh? Okay, so those are our public hearings. No unfinished business. We'll go on to new business. Item 10.1, consider resolution approving the mayor's appointment of Denise Steck as the city's representative to Utah Infrastructure Agency, the UIA Board. Tim? Or is it Frank? Sorry, Frank.
Yes,
Yeah, you told me. Thank you.
So Justin Zollinger was the representative of the city to the Utah Infrastructure Agency Board. And now we have a new finance director, and she is...
She is so
there's,
excited.
Yeah, very excited. She's been appointed by the mayor to succeed Justin Zollinger to the UIA Board as the city's representative, subject, of course, to approval by the city council. Diane Turner would remain as the alternate representative.
All right, thank you, Frank. Questions or a motion?
I would move approval of the resolution approving the mayor's appointment of Denise Steck as the city's representative to the UIA Board.
Second?
I'll second.
Jennifer?
Aye.
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 Aye, thank you. 10.2, consider an ordinance adopting the rate of tax levies for the fiscal year commencing July 1st, 2017 and ending June 30, 2018. Denise.
It's the last time for tonight anyway. I want to do a short presentation on the certified property tax rate, which has been presented by the County Assessor's Office. So I'm just going to quickly go through the steps that we get to the certified tax rate. So the first thing that happens is the Salt Lake County Assessor's Office values the property in the city boundaries every year. Following that, the assessor records the property as being either existing or new growth. After that happens, the State Tax Commission calculates a property tax rate that will yield the exact same amount of revenue as the previous year for all existing taxable property, and this is called the certified tax rate. The rate's then applied to all new growth, and additional revenue is added, which is the $97,000 that I just added to the budget. So that represents the new growth in the city this year. The rate, if the city determines that the rate's insufficient for its needs, the city is required to go through the truth in taxation process. However, this year, the city has determined that it will be sufficient for its needs, and the budget assumes the adoption of the certified tax rate. The chart that I've added here kind of illustrates how those items have occurred over the last 10 years. So if you look at the bottom flat line, that is, oh, I don't have the pointer up. The bottom flat line, that's our property tax revenue for the last 12 years. So you can see it's just flat, somewhere between $5.9 and $6.1 million. The blue line that is somewhat a lot less volatile than the purple line is the assessed value of our properties. So those are the, oh, I hit it again, didn't I? Sorry. The assessed values of the properties. So that's the regular existing property, and you can kind of see your values go up and down as values for your home go up and down. But again, the revenue doesn't change, the rate changes. So the city always gets the same amount of money. The one that's very volatile is new growth. So you can see in our city, it's quite interesting. I came from a high growth city previously, and so we would always see this huge uphill. Murray's different, it's more established. And so you'll see that about every 3 to 5, 6 years, you'll see a spike in growth because we've added a development, and then you'll see no growth for a few years. There were actually 3 of the last 12 years that we had 0 growth. I think that's difficult for us to maintain the same property tax revenue at that rate. This is a chart showing the certified tax rates for the last 12 years and where they've gone. The one on the end in the green is our current tax rate, and it is the lowest tax rate received for the city in the last 12 years. And this is our property tax revenue that we just adopted in the budget a few moments ago. You'll see that at the end here there's $90,000 extra that we spoke about. That has to do with the new growth. Otherwise, the city has maintained the same property tax revenue over that period of time. This next chart tells you how much of your property tax bill actually comes to the city, and I think that this is the most important message of the evening, in that the city doesn't receive the bulk of your property tax money. The county, or the school district, I'm sorry, receives almost 50% of your property tax bill, and the county receives about 25%. Then there's some really small districts in there, like the Mosquito Abatement District, which is my personal favorite, and the library, which also receives small amounts. So one of the councilmen, and I won't say who, called me and said, well, my house is valued for the assessment at almost $300,000, and my bill's about $1,500. Well, he was right. He's right on. It's $1,528 this year. And of that, $19 will come to the city a month, and $5 will go to the library a month, which is very inexpensive, and I believe we provide quite a bit of service for that small amount of money every month. So that's your police services, your fire services, your parks, all of the other services that the cities provide for less than $20 a month. And now one of the best screens. How do we compare to other cities in Salt Lake County? We are the 5th lowest property tax rate in the county. The only ones that are lower are Holiday, Draper, Sandy, and Bluffdale. And the reason is because Bluffdale is a residential only community, so they don't have to maintain an infrastructure that supports any kind of business in their community. And then Draper and Sandy and Holiday are all high growth and high sales tax dollars. Eventually they will become like Murray and become existing properties, and they will be in the same boat we are, where they're kind of leveled out. And that's it for our certified tax rate. Our certified tax rate this year is 0.001415, and that's what we're proposing in the budget, and this is what this ordinance proposes.
Could you clarify something, Mr.
No,
Chair?
please,
Okay.
Dave, sorry.
Could you clarify something for me, Denise? So,
Of course.
as that rate goes down, does
Yes.
that mean the residential property tax obligation goes down?
It does not. It does, depending on the assessed value. So,
Okay.
if your home was assessed this year at $300,000, and let's pretend that next year your home goes up in value, our rate will go down, and you will pay the same amount to the city. So, if your assessed value goes up, the rate goes down. If your assessed value goes down, the rate goes up. But no matter what, the amount that you pay to the city will remain the same.
Remain the same?
It will remain the same.
Okay.
So you will always be paying $20 a month to the city for all of its services unless a truth and taxation process was incurred.
Whichever way it goes.
Right. No matter whether it goes up or down, it's the same.
Got it.
So when I first Jan, do you remember this? When I first was in office, I wanted to see the difference between Murray and Cottonwood Heights, which is our neighbor, our bordering
Sure.
city. And my mother-in-law was paying almost $4,000 a month for a 4,000 square foot home, and the people in Murray were about $2,900 a month. It's huge. Now
A
that
year.
was 5 years ago. I don't know how it is now, but it was huge
Yeah.
difference. So.
Well, and you can see Cottonwood Heights is on this
Yeah.
chart, and they're quite a bit higher
Yeah, it
than
was
we are
high.
currently.
They wanted us to adopt him to Murray, and I said, well, there's
Said,
nothing we can do.
"No, I don't think
We've
so."
gone as high as we can go with Line and Drive, so. All righty, any other questions for Denise? Thank you, Denise.
Thank you.
We appreciate you. All right. The council, consideration?
10.2, correct?
Yes, that is
Okay,
correct.
make a motion approving an ordinance which would adopt the rate of tax levies for the fiscal year commencing July 1, 2017 and ending June 30th, 2018.
Second.
Jennifer? Thanks, Jim.
Aye.
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 Aye. Again, thanks, Denise. We appreciate all you do for us. 10.3, consider an ordinance imposing a temporary ban of the discharge of fireworks and other ignition source in specified fire risk area. John Harris. Welcome, John. Chief.
Yes, thank you. My reason for speaking today is to consider an ordinance for a ban on fireworks in certain risk-prone areas of Murray. We've had this same areas outlined for the last 5 years or so. It's very similar to what other cities do. You can see the map here. The areas, they're kind of lightly shaded, but the ones that are shaded in red, predominantly the Jordan River, Wheeler Farm, and Murray Park. These are areas that history has shown us are very likely to burn. So what we're asking for is an ordinance that during the fireworks seasons, these areas will be banned.
All right, well, we've seen those areas, and any questions for John?
No, just a couple of quick comments. We had that a couple of years back. We had that fast burning fire on the Parkway. that was human caused. According to the governor, the fires that's burning down around Bryan Head right now is caused by a weed burner. So we had a lot of snow and a lot of water, and a lot of things have grown, and now they're drying out in this lovely heat. So I think it's a good idea.
All right. Motion?
I would make a motion we adopt the ordinance imposing a temporary ban on the discharge of fireworks and other ignition sources in specified fire risk areas.
I'll second that.
Jennifer?
Aye.
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 Aye. Thanks, John. 10.4, consider a resolution approving interlocal agreement between the city and the state of Utah, Utah Division of Forestry, Fire, and State Lands relating to services provided by the city to the state to assist in fighting wildland fires. John Harris.
So what this interlocal agreement allows us to do is if the Utah Division of Forestry requests resources and personnel, if Murray is able to, we're not obligated, but if we are able to, we can send those resources and personnel, and the agreement allows us to be reimbursed for the costs associated with that. We've done that for the last couple of years, and it's been a successful program, and we're asking for a resolution to do that this year as well.
Great. Any questions for John or consideration?
I would make a motion to adopt the resolution approving an interlocal agreement between the city and the state of Utah, Utah Division of Forestry, Fire, and State Lands related to services provided by the city to the state to assist in fighting wildland fires.
You did that well for a previous chief. Second. Or, I didn't second that. I'm asking for a second.
I'll
Excuse
second.
me. Thank you. I'm asking for a second. Jennifer.
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you, John, again. 10.5, consider a development agreement between the city and Parkview Properties, LLC, an affiliate of Dakota Pacific Real Estate Partners for the Vine Street Senior Living Project in the Murray City Center District. Tim Tingey.
Council members, this was this item that we're considering tonight was an application, a land use application that came into the city December of 2016, and it's a land use application that has been evaluated at this point. There's been significant discussion about that tonight. I want to outline the process real briefly related to that. The proposal that was submitted was for a certificate of appropriateness to allow for an assisted living facility up to 126 bedrooms at the site, just right over here, as you mentioned in the agenda, on the agenda item. And part of that application included demolition request for 4 historic buildings. They include the First Ward building, the 2 duplexes on Jones Court, and then the building on the corner of Jones and Vine Street. Now, before I get into that process, I need to talk a little bit about the Murray City Center District Ordinance and the adoption of that ordinance, which governs this application, which was considered by the Planning Commission on May 4th. But that ordinance was adopted back in 2011 of March, and prior to that, there was the Downtown Historic Overlay District that was an ordinance that was in place, and that ordinance primarily restricted demolition of historic buildings that were designated in this downtown area, with the exception of 2 elements. One is if the owner suffers a hardship and is permanently deprived of economic return, and then 2, that the building is an imminent hazard to public safety and repairs are impractical. That was the criteria that had to be met for demolition of a building prior to the MCCD ordinance being approved in 2011. So based upon that, back in 2008, 2009, we had some property owners that owned historic buildings in this downtown that came to the council, came to the mayor, and requested that we reevaluate the Downtown Historic Overlay District, relook at this area, including allowing for some flexibility for demolition of historic structures. So that process, we went through that process with the council. In fact, also with the Planning Commission, with the History Advisory Board, with other groups. There were 13 public input meetings through that process. It took about 2 years for that process to go forward, for drafts of the ordinance to be considered, and that was adopted by the City Council in 2011. That adoption allowed for an exception process for historic buildings, an exception process that, as per this application, is being requested on. It's the first time that we've had this request in the downtown area since the ordinance was adopted. So I want to be clear that the DHOD, the Downtown Historic Overlay District, was different than what we have in the Murray City Center District, and it allows for now an exception process for demolition. That exception process is determined by the Planning Commission for a certificate of appropriateness. As I mentioned, it went to the Planning Commission on May 4th, and they considered this item through a public input process, through application materials that came forward, through recommendations from the History Advisory Board, as well as the Murray City Center District Design Review Committee, which includes professionals in the architectural and planning industry that evaluated this proposal as well. All of that was brought forward to the Planning Commission. They held the public hearing and voted to approve that certificate of appropriateness. That approval was based on these elements, and I'll just briefly discuss these. Condition of the building, it's already been commented in here. The applicant has demonstrated to the Planning Commission that incorporation of the significant historic building in the proposed development is impractical based on the condition of the existing building, structural incompatibility, and similar constraints. 2, adherence to the Murray City Center District standards and goals and objectives. 3, compliance must comply with the ordinance standards and design standards of the community and of the ordinance. There must be a monument inscription if demolition is granted. As part of this, must be implemented, including a narrative of the buildings that are to be demolished if that is approved, and also input from the Public Arts and History Advisory Board. And then the last element is the development agreement has to be reviewed by the City Council. That is what we're here tonight to do. We're not here to talk about all of those standards related to the certificate of appropriateness. That was considered by the Planning Commission, deliberated upon. They took the application materials, public comments, both for and against the application, and they made a determination that the demolition of these buildings was appropriate with the proposal that has come forward. So at this point, the council has to determine whether the development agreement, and really the focus of this development agreement, is to ensure that the viability of the project moving forward will happen, that we won't just demolish buildings and then property sits there. So the development agreement really keys on the viability of the project and how it is going to move forward and making sure that it will move forward. So based on that, based on the information that you have in your packet, based on the development agreement proposed, and through discussion and work on getting the information provided with this, these are the conditions, or these are the elements of the development agreement that must be adhered to. And I'm going to talk briefly on these and then I'll be done. But the bottom line, moving into this, first, there must be immediacy of the project, and a development timeline must be submitted with the 24-hour-month project completion period. That has been submitted as an attachment as part of this agreement. There's a timeline and all of the detailed elements of how the project will move forward. 2, if demolition is approved, the applicant property owner must be willing to provide a performance, security, and financial guarantee equal to 125% of the estimated cost of the project to ensure project completion. The estimated cost of this project for this facility is around $26 million. They have to provide security for 125% of that. There was a lot of discussion. This is not an easy element to adhere to. A lot of discussion and information that needed to be provided. Based on that information and what's in your packet related to the exhibit, it includes equity elements that they are bringing forward, close to $10 million. It includes construction loan elements, that's the $26 million, and that there's a completion guarantee that Murray City is a part of. And in addition to that, they have provided an additional guarantee of 25% of the project above and beyond that 100%, which is about 6.5 or 6.8 million. All of that is part of the agreement that is placed upon this to ensure that is being met. Cease demolition shall not be approved until the building permit is issued for the proposed development and evidence of adequate financing has been submitted. All of that evidence will be provided before a building permit's issued. All of the detailed construction drawings for the project and proposal have to be submitted as well before demolition will be granted by the administration of the city in that element. In addition to that, projected value of the project must be at least 5 times the current assessed valuation. That has been provided in your packet. It's actually been provided that it will be 12 from 2 million of the existing value up to 26 million, so significantly above that 5 times. And then the project must include a commercial only, or if there's a mix of residential, that there are elements related to the ground floor that are part of that. This is a commercial project, a commercial entity, and so that has been adhered to. And then demonstration of proposed number of jobs and types of jobs, that's also included as part of the certificate of appropriateness and information, and public benefit must be substantiated. With all of these elements that have been provided, the public benefit, we have determined that's substantiated. So the bottom line is we are recommending approval of this this development agreement that you have in front of us. We feel the process that went through the Planning Commission was appropriate, and we met the standards of the code, and they held the public testimony on that. There was no appeal of that after that was considered and decided upon, and so based upon that, we're recommending approval of the development agreement, which is what the City Council has to do per the code related to this. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Tingey?
I have a question, maybe it's more for Frank, but I've heard a lot of comments tonight about legal flaws in the system and so forth, and I think just to be clear, what we're looking at tonight here on this development agreement is that we are bound to look at the agreement. That's what we're considering tonight, not the other issues.
Right. The certificate of appropriateness was issued. That process was handled by the Planning Commission May 4th. That is done. They had to look at all the elements. They have the discretion to make those decisions pursuant to those standards. That process is completed. Certificate of appropriateness was issued, and there's been no appeal. That time has elapsed. What you're looking at is the final element, and that's the development agreement. And that is, as Tim said, financial viability, and then there's the security issue of 125%. And as he's stated, if you look at Exhibit E, and that was, I think, a lot of time went into negotiating that. There are equity elements to it, bank commitments, and the city has access to an equity fund. So if the elements of the final part of it is done, you got to understand the certificate of appropriateness, where a lot of these discussions occurred, were done in the Planning and Zoning Commission, and that process is completed.
All right, thanks Frank, thanks Tim. Any other questions for Tim?
No, I've got a couple of comments. It is my district. It's actually kind of my neighborhood. And I've talked to many times. This is difficult, and it's a private property issue. This property was for sale for quite a long time. The development group is under contract to purchase it now. It's tough. As much as we want to, it's hard for government, and I don't think we want government to get involved deeply in private property issues. As Frank mentioned, as Tim mentioned, the documentation was provided. We have it. Not sure about the appeals. I will speak to the need for an assisted living center. We don't have one in Murray. Our population is aging. One of the problems with our population aging is our property is so expensive our kids can't move here. We're trying to work on that also. But my mother-in-law was in an assisted living center. It was up, the nice one was up near, up off of Fort Union by all the shopping centers up there. I can't remember the name, Cottonwood Creek, I think it is. And we would go visit her, and we would see individuals in their motorized wheelchairs trying to cross 13th East or Union Park Avenue to get over to the shopping center. I'm telling you, if you don't think that's not a Darwinian process, it's scary. And so, you know, putting an assisted living center in a location like this makes sense to me, because it's near a park, it's near the hospital, it's near places to go. But it was difficult to get out and go somewhere from that facility. I love old churches. It's been a passion of mine also. I went to the U to be an architect. But this one it's tough, as Frank said. The decision on whether to save it or not, the legislative authority was planning and zoning. We get to look at the development agreement, which a land use attorney explained to me was kind of like a super conditional use permit, and state law does not allow us to deny conditional use permits. We can apply conditions that are appropriate, and that's it. So, yeah, this one will be tough, but we move on.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for Tim? Consideration from the council.
I'll bite the bullet and say we get approve the development agreement between the City and Parkview Properties LLC, an affiliate of Dakota Pacific Real Estate Partners, for the Vine Street Senior Living Project in the Murray City Center District.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Jennifer?
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you, Tim. All right, next we go on to item 10.6. Consider an ordinance enacting Chapter 10.20 of the Murray City Municipal Code relating to impeding or blocking traffic. Frank?
Yes, we discussed this in the committee of the whole, our previous meeting. This is in reaction to the House Bill 161 that was passed in the 2017 legislature. It is sometimes referred to as a panhandling ordinance, but we felt like we've always had provisions in our law to deal with panhandling if it impedes traffic or if it impairs public safety. However, the difference between this and what we normally enforce is that it also, if someone's driving a vehicle on certain specified roadways, that it could result in a citation. The only issue here, a concern that I have, is that the state law requires that we have a permit process. That is, you could get a permit. We're kind of unclear as to the permitting process. We haven't seen it in any model ordinances that have been enacted by other cities pursuant to this. So we have put it under special events permit, and we will be interested in seeing how we handle that when and if we do get a request for a special events permit. And that part of it's unclear, but we'll follow the standards as it exists in our special event permit ordinance.
Thank you, Frank. Any questions for Frank on this? Or consideration from the council?
I move that we adopt an ordinance amending Chapter 10.20 of the Murray City Municipal Code relating to impeding or blocking traffic.
Second.
Jennifer?
Aye.
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 Aye. Thanks, Frank. 10.7, consider a resolution authorizing the execution of a telecommunication franchise agreement between Quest Corporation, DBA CenturyLink, QC, and Murray City. Frank McNamara.
Yes, we have franchise agreements with many of the telecommunication companies that use our right-of-ways. This is sort of a cleanup. We, of course, CenturyLink, formerly Quest, have been using our right-of-ways for quite some time. We have been unable to locate a franchise agreement when we were having some issues that we had to talk to CenturyLink about. So with the mutual agreement of CenturyLink, we have prepared a franchise agreement. Franchise agreements are, there is no fee involved because we do that through the telecommunication tax, but there are rules as far as using our right-of-ways, maintaining our right-of-ways, and that's what these franchise agreements are. Again, CenturyLink's always used our right-of-ways. We were just could not locate the franchise agreement, and so we're going to execute a new franchise agreement with CenturyLink.
Great, thanks, Frank. Consideration from the council?
Nothing will change revenue-wise?
There is no revenue. That is through a telecommunications tax.
Right.
This is simply a process by which they have certain rules if they're going to tear into our right-of-ways or they're going to do any digging.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dave, for the question.
I'll move we adopt the resolution authorizing the execution of a telecommunications franchise agreement between Quest Corporation doing business as CenturyLink QC in Murray City.
Have a second?
I'll second that.
Jennifer?
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. 10.8, consider an ordinance amending section 12.34.100 of the Murray City Municipal Code relating to the appeal procedures for special event permits. Frank?
Yes, in the special event ordinance, we had an appeal on reasons that, again, this is how we were examining our ordinances and trying to get them up to date. The appeal process went to our business licensing administrator. That should not be the case. The appeal of a denial or any decision for a special events permit should go to the mayor, and we made that correction, and that's what this ordinance is, to allow the appeal process to go to the mayor.
All righty. Thank you, Frank. Any questions for Frank on that or consideration?
I'll move approval of the ordinance amending section 12.34.100 of the Murray City Municipal Code relating to appeal procedures for special event permits.
I'll second that.
Jennifer?
Aye.
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 Aye. Thanks, Jennifer. Thanks, Frank. Tim, anything from the mayor's report?
Yes.
Well, I love it.
I
You
do
were.
have a few things.
I'm kind of a little surprised. You were looking at me like, I don't know.
I want to make sure I cover everything that the mayor wanted to say. Real briefly, you mentioned this in the committee of the whole meeting, but just for everyone that's viewing, next Thursday, June 27th, between 4 and 6, there'll be an open house related to the bridge proposal. It's a pedestrian bridge going across State Street. It's part of a funding that we're receiving through the federal government through a grant called the Tiger Grant. If you want to know what that means, it's the Transportation Investment Generating Economic Recovery Act. And it's a grant related to that. And so anyway, there's that open house. Also, Fun Day celebration. You mentioned this as well, but the Rotary Club Community Breakfast starting at 6:30 a.m., ending with fireworks in Murray Park at 10 p.m. All the details are on the website of Murray City. The park is ready for Fun Days. In fact, the trail, the newly paved pathway, resurfaced roads are soon to be completed exercise area is just about finished. And then the last thing, Friday, the movie in the park at Ken Price Ballpark will be The Jungle Book. Will begin at 9 p.m.
Tim, where was the trail that you're talking about?
Through the park.
The new. They've repaved a lot of the pathways through the park.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
We were over there for Relay for Life Friday night. The mayor actually came and helped open it, and got to roll across a lot of those new pathways. It's really nice.
Yeah.
So I think people will enjoy that.
Awesome. That it, Tim? All righty.
Yes.
Okay, Mayor, if you're watching this, we love you. Thanks. We're adjourned.
Chief? Craig?